Okay, you guys, welcome to my channel, Life Lessons Learned. And this one was a doozy. But remember, I always say the learning of a lesson is the application of it. And trust me, I applied these lessons well. Now, this was when I was 14 years old. I was babysitting for a neighbor, and the neighbor had four children. So she never came back. And then my mother told me I couldn't stay home with someone else's kids because she would be legally responsible. So let's get into this story. This was when I lived in Detroit, and we had a neighbor right next door to us, and she had, four children. The youngest one was 3 months old. So keep that in mind. And we used to see her, coming and going with their kids. And sometimes the kids would be in the front room just waving as people went by, that kind of thing. So they seemed to be really friendly. Now, back in the day when and she happened to be a single mother that was on welfare. So at least that's what they called it then. I think they call it something else now, independent aid to dependent children or something like that. But back in the day when you were on food stamps, you actually had to go to some office, so like a office to pick up your food stamps. And on this particular day, she needed to catch a bus down to downtown Detroit in order to do so. And she came and she knocked on my door. And this was actually the first time we actually interacted with, like, spoken with her. We had always just seen them coming and going and the kids waving and things like that. But she said, ma'am, I'm in are you able to babysit? And I was like, yeah, yeah. How long are you going to be gone? And she said, I just need to run downtown and get my food stamps. And she said, I don't have anything in the house and I can't take all the kids with me. Pretty simple, right? So I was 14, not allergic to making some extra money or some money because it wasn't extra in those days. But I told her, sure. And I said, just let me know, how long do you think you'll be gone? And she said, at the most 2 hours, which makes sense. You got to wait for the bus, catch the bus, get to where you're going, wait in a food stamp office, catch a bus back, all of that. So it made sense to me. So I said, no problem. Um, then she said, well, can I bring the kids over here, to your house? We lived right next door. So I thought that was strange, but I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, okay. So she got them packed up and everything and brought them over to my house. Now, this time my mother was at work. So it wasn't like you know, could ask her if I could babysit or anything. And the lady said it would only be 2 hours. So I'm like, just hurry up, come back and get your kids and everything will be fine. Well, as you can imagine, 2 hours go by, 3 hours go by, 4 hours go by. And this was before cell phone days. So it's not like I could just call her or text her or email her or do any of that stuff. So I'm starting to panic at this time because as soon as the kids actually came over to my house, they said they were hungry. And it was like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. So I was like, wouldn't they have had breakfast and lunch by now? But kids sometimes some kids can eat all day. So I'm like, okay. So I fixed all of them something to eat. And she had shown me the routine for making the baby's formula and things like that. And the baby kept like coughing and crying and like it was fussy. But so it's a 3 or 4 month old. So okay, that makes sense. Well, as the time went by and it was time for my mother to be getting off work, she worked afternoon, so she worked from 3 to 11. Yeah, 11 p.m. I'm still with these kids. So, and my mother is not one, well, you'll hear other stories about my mother, but if you looked at one of my previous videos, you'll see that she had the 18 and out rule. So as soon as you turned 18, you had to move out, whether you were going to school, whether you were working, even if you were helping with the household expenses. Her thing was, making sure that we're independent, grown adults. So I get it. Well, my mother came home, and of course, there's all of these kids and a 3 or 4 month old. And my mother asked me, what was going on. So I told her that it was, the ladies next door kids, and she said she would only be a few hours, and that was almost 10 hours ago. And, I didn't know what to do. So my mother said, well, it was too late to do anything, so we may as well stay there for the night. But she said the next day, if the lady hadn't returned, I couldn't stay there with four extra kids. My mother had six herself, so again, I get it. A lot of people are like, what? Your mother put you out while you were babysitting? Like, ah. But she said that if something were to happen to any of the kids, and because I was only 14 and a minor myself, then my mother would be responsible for whatever may have occurred, like with them health wise or accidentally or anything like that. So the next day, I go and knock on the lady's door because I'm thinking maybe she got in late and maybe she thought it was too late to come and wake up the kids and, get home or anything. And I did not get an answer. So I went by, packed up all the kids' things, and I went by one of my friends' houses. And I went by one of my friend's mother's house. So I'm 14, so it's not like I got a friend that's grown, okay? So, and her mother was just shocked. And she was like, yeah, you guys can stay here for the night. She said, but what, I mean, if she doesn't come back, what do you plan on doing? And at this time, of course, I was 14. I didn't have extra diapers. The lady gave me maybe three or four. And so this friend, this mother of my friend, she went and brought Pampers and some more baby formula and stuff like that we would need. And we waited and waited, and I was like, I told one of my sisters to stay home that day in case the lady came back, looking for her kids. Because I was like, then you can tell her we're at this other lady's house. Well, she didn't return the second day, and then this lady, she only had the one child, so she didn't have enough for her child and me and the four kids and diapers and all of that. So I said I didn't have a choice. At this point, I'm going to have to call the police and let them know, what the situation was because someone's got to take care of these kids. And I didn't even know the lady's last name. Like I said, this was the first time I had even spoken with her. It's when she asked me to babysit. So now I'm thinking, I've got to call the police. They're going to take the kids. Guess who's not going to get paid? And I know you guys are like, are you really talking about getting paid after this lady has left four kids? That's the last thing you should be thinking about. But remember, a 14-year-old was trying to get extra money, and I'm like, I had these kids for 2 whole days, got kicked out of my own house with the four kids, and now I won't get paid. So I was not too thrilled about all of that. But I do have to say that the kids they were very mannerably. They were really quiet. Well, actually, as if they were like afraid of adults. So I don't know what that was about. But I went back to my house, well, where I live with my mom, to get some more of their things that I had left. And my younger sister said, why don't we just go next door and see what's going on? And I was like, what do you mean, see what's going on? She's not there. So she said, well, let's go anyway. So we went next door, and this time the lady's door was ajar. So we were like, okay, what the hell? We went in, and you guys, wherever whatever she was running from, they caught up with her. Her refrigerator all the food was out and on the kitchen floor. The couches had been cut up, the pillows were all slashed and cut up, and the stuffing out like someone was looking for something. It was the same with the bedrooms and her mattress and everything. Everything was cut up and torn and ransacked. It was just crazy. So I was like, geez, now I gotta tell the cops about the house. Uh, uh, but anyway, so I called, the police department, and I explained to them what had occurred, and they said they would send two officers out because what else are you gonna do? Well, they had the officers come out, and they were at my mom's house, and one of the kids were like four and a half, and the officer asked the kid, please don't ask me why the officer asked the kid this because I have no idea. But anyway, he asked the oldest one, where was his mom? And you guys are not going to believe this. The boy pointed at me. It's like, and both officers turned and looked at me as if you almost put a fast one on us. And I was like, you guys, I'm not his mother. So then they asked the 3 year old who was the mother. The 3 year old pointed at me. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they just think females, mother means female or something. I don't know. So then one of the officers turns to me and says, ma'am, you do know it's against the law to file a false report. I'm like, first of all, I'm 14. So in order for me to have a 4 year old and keep having kids, I would have to have started at 10, right? So the other officer looked at the other one. He was like, yeah, man, she's right. Maybe they're not hers. Hmm. So much for serve and protect, right? And I say that in jest because I really do honor all of the work that all police officers do across this great country. And they actually are there to serve and protect. And maybe they thought I was just trying to get over on them. I mean, they're asking the kids who the mother is, and the kids are pointing at me. So, okay, I kind of get it. So the officer asked if it would be possible for me. He asked me, first of all, if I thought the lady would be returning. Okay, I thought she was going to return in 2 hours. So that's my answer for that. And then he says, well, you know, if we take these kids, they're going to be in the foster care system. And I said, yeah, I mean, th- that would be the next step. And he said, do you want that to happen? Do I want that to happen? This is what I want. I want the mother to return and pay me. That's what I want, but I can go there. So I was like, I'm not sure what you mean. And he said, just hear me out. What if you kept them for one more night and then the mother showed up and then everything would be okay? Now, you guys have to understand, this was decades ago. So we didn't have the same protocols and um, rules and regulations that we have today that, back then. So I guess they were trying to, keep the family together and not make a big deal out of this major big deal. And I said, I won't be able to because, first of all, I don't have the funds. I don't have any more food. I said, someone broke into her house. I don't know what they were looking for. And I gave them that, let them know that it was the house next door. And I said, and my mom won't let me stay in her house because she's saying that she would legally be responsible, you know, if anything happened. So one of the officers says, your mother is not letting you stay here with the 4 kids. And I'm like, you're missing the point, officer. This lady left her 4 kids. The concern isn't what my mother is doing. She's taking care of hers. Jeez. So um, they kind of tried to talk me into keeping the kids. I'm like, that's not going to happen. And so they finally called another unit out, and this unit had a female officer, and they told her, that we had kids and everything, and that they would need to, get them over to the station and figure out what they would do from there. So it was a really, well, it was pretty traumatic because of course, I got attached to the 4 kids, and like I said, they were nice, they were quiet, they weren't, you know, hell raisers or anything like that. And I'm thinking to myself, what the heck happened to her? I wonder if did she really go downtown to get food stamps or if that was just a story she told me so she could have her kids in a safe space and I guess do whatever she needed to do. Now, that would be all fine if that were the end of the story. But as you can imagine, at some point, the mother did return. So let me explain that whole ordeal. 2.5 weeks later, yeah, I get a knock on the door, and it's the mother. And she's like, somebody broke into my house. And I was like, yeah, I saw that. I said, I went back there to, get some more clothes and everything for the kids. And it was ransacked. And so she said, she kind of looked down and she said, oh, well, that's not your problem or anything. How are the kids doing? Right. I wanted to say your guess is as good as mine at this point, but I didn't. So I said, unfortunately, I was only able to keep them for 3 days. I said, I ran out of food, I ran out of formula, and I ran out of diapers. I said, so I had to call the police to come get them. And she said, you called the police? And I said, I can't, I didn't have anyone else to call. And then she stood there for a second and she said, no, it wasn't your fault. That's okay. And then she said, I'm still going to pay you. I don't have anything right now, because it's been a while since I got the food stamps, and I don't have them anymore. But I won't forget about you. And I really was okay with it because really at this point, even at 14, you can know if she's in that kind of a dire situation where she's abandoned her 4 kids, and I don't even like the word abandoned, but left her 4 kids because she did leave them with a sitter, a 14-year-old. And she probably, whatever happened between the time she left her kids with me and the time that she knocked back on my door, she had to have gone through something traumatic herself. I mean, people don't just say, I'm going downtown, I'll be back in a few hours, and then you see them 2.5 weeks later. So I was able to understand that whatever she was into or whatever happened, and I didn't blame her and I didn't judge her. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So, with this channel being Life Lessons Learned, and remember, guys, I always say the true learning of a lesson is the application of it. So, guess who never babysit it again? Babysit it. Guess who never babysat again? That's right. And I didn't care how much someone was paying. Um, how little time they said they would be gone. I mean, I didn't trust that anymore. So, yes, that was definitely a 14-year-old's babysitter's nightmare for sure. And, I wasn't upset with my mother either, because, like I said, I can understand what she meant when she was like, if something happens, if they get sick. And remember when I said that the 3 or 4 month old was coughing and didn't seem well? Turns out that that baby was sick. That baby had colic. So the officers, like, I think probably a week after they had taken them from me, called to ask me if she had returned. And of course, at that time, she hadn't. So they asked me if I was aware that the youngest one was sick. And I said, no, I'm 14. I was just babysitting. So every once in a while, I would wonder if she, ever got her kids reunited with her, if she ever got her life, on a different path, and what happened with those 4 children. And I always hope that they didn't get separated, but it's not many people that can take 4 kids at a time, especially back in the day. But anyway, I want to thank you for visiting my channel. And remember my mantra, knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And hopefully, as we learn lessons through life, again, as I say, we apply those lessons moving forward so that we don't continue to make the same errors that we've made in the past repeatedly, and over and over. Now, that's not to say that, because that happened, you shouldn't ever babysit again. I'm sure things would have been okay. I mean, that was a very oddity. Okay. It was a rare instance. But as a 14-year-old, I was like, you know what? I've had it with that. Maybe I'll do something else. So that's that. This is Sherry. For those of you who are interested in any of my books, they're available on Amazon.com. And you can also visit my website, sherrybrantley.com. You'll see the books that I've published over the years, and some of the lessons I've learned are in those books as well. And also, please like, subscribe, and share this video. And please let me know down in the comments what you would have done if you found yourself in that similar situation. Because I would love to hear that. Okay, you guys, thanks. Bye.